Regarding abdominal fat, society has repeated the identical narrative for many decades. Consume fewer calories, increase physical activity, track every calorie intake, and eventually the fat will simply disappear. However, in spite of all the dedication, the majority of individuals become discouraged, constantly hungry, and return exactly to their original position. The reality is that abdominal fat is not solely related to calories. It concerns hormones, particularly insulin. Whenever insulin concentrations remain elevated, the human body remains in a mode dedicated to storing fat, regardless of how healthily one eats or how intensely one exercises. The solution is not to consume less food, but rather to consume food in a different manner. To provide the body with an opportunity to utilize the fat it is currently storing. Since stored fat is not merely inactive. It represents energy that has been reserved, ready to be utilized once the appropriate signal is received that permits the body to access it. This approach does not involve magical supplements or intense training sessions. It involves comprehending the basic biological cycle that the body naturally adheres to and discovering how to cooperate with it rather than oppose it. For many decades, individuals have been instructed that abdominal fat results simply from ingesting excessive calories. The reasoning appeared direct. Consume less, increase movement, and the fat ought to vanish. Yet even after adhering to this guidance, numerous people remain trapped, experiencing hunger, and incapable of eliminating that persistent fat surrounding the midsection. The element that was overlooked is not greater effort or stronger determination. It is comprehending the actual mechanism by which the body accumulates and expends fat. The primary factor driving abdominal fat is not calories. It is insulin. Insulin serves as the hormone responsible for controlling energy storage in the body. Each time food is consumed, particularly items rich in carbohydrates, insulin concentrations increase to facilitate the transport of glucose into cells for immediate energy. However, when insulin concentrations remain constantly high because of regular meals, between meal snacks, or foods that have been processed, the body continuously receives instructions to accumulate fat and never liberate it. In essence, fat cells become secured, prevented from releasing the energy they contain. This explains why numerous individuals can reduce their calorie consumption yet fail to eliminate abdominal fat because their hormonal state, rather than the number of calories, governs the outcome. Whenever insulin is raised, the body gives priority to accumulating energy rather than expending it. Consider insulin as a control mechanism. When the mechanism is activated, fat accumulation proceeds. When the mechanism is deactivated, the process of burning fat can at last begin. Contemporary dietary patterns maintain that mechanism activated nearly all the time. Breakfast at 8 a.m., a snack at 10 o'clock, lunch at noon, an afternoon coffee with sugar, dinner at 7, and perhaps something sweet before bed. This routine ensures that insulin seldom has the opportunity to decrease. The consequence is a body that excels at accumulating fat but performs poorly at expending it. Even when overall calorie intake is managed, the hormonal conditions continue to favor the gain of fat, especially in the abdominal area, where sensitivity to insulin is frequently the lowest. Abdominal fat is more than merely an appearance concern. It indicates an underlying metabolic disturbance. Elevated insulin concentrations encourage the buildup of visceral fat, the harmful variety that envelopes internal organs and heightens inflammatory responses. This form of fat is actively hormonal, generating substances that additionally aggravate resistance to insulin, establishing a destructive loop. As resistance to insulin intensifies, the pancreas responds by secreting greater quantities of insulin, additionally promoting the accumulation of fat. This is the reason certain individuals discover that even after reducing calories or increasing exercise, their waist measurement barely alters. Until insulin concentrations are lowered, the body stays in a secured condition of energy accumulation. The foundation for dissolving abdominal fat lies in re-establishing sensitivity to insulin. That involves minimizing the repeated surges in insulin through careful management of both the content and timing of meals. The body has no requirement for continuous feeding. In truth, providing intervals between meals permits insulin to decline and hormones responsible for burning fat, such as glucagon and growth hormone, to increase. When insulin decreases, the body ultimately obtains access to reserved fat for fuel. This explains why certain individuals experience swift loss of fat upon beginning to extend the intervals between meals or decreasing intake of refined carbohydrates. They are not merely consuming less, they are altering their hormonal messages. Refined carbohydrates, particularly sugars, white flour, and processed snacks, represent the primary offenders in maintaining elevated insulin. These items are rapidly converted into glucose, causing sharp rises in blood sugar and provoking substantial releases of insulin. With ongoing exposure, the body's reaction becomes dulled, resulting in resistance to insulin. Substituting these items with complete, unprocessed meals abundant in natural fats, fiber, and protein assists in maintaining steady blood sugar and reducing insulin concentrations. Beneficial fats like those derived from olive oil, avocados, and nuts do not provoke surges in insulin, enabling the body to remain in a state of burning fat for extended durations following meals. Physical activity is beneficial, yet only when paired with appropriate management of diet. Exercise enhances sensitivity to insulin. However, if the diet persists in elevating insulin via ongoing carbohydrate consumption or frequent snacking, the benefits stay restricted. The body requires a steady message indicating that it is appropriate to expend energy rather than accumulate it. This accounts for why numerous individuals who engage in vigorous workouts continue to face difficulties with abdominal fat. They are performing exercise while in an environment of high insulin. Comprehending insulin transforms the complete viewpoint on losing fat. It transcends mere self-control or tracking calories. It involves establishing circumstances in which the body is hormonally prepared to expend fat rather than accumulate it. As soon as insulin concentrations are lowered through intelligent dietary routines, the body instinctively transitions from operating as a sugar consumer to functioning as a fat consumer, and the persistent abdominal fat that appeared impossible to eliminate ultimately begins to dissolve. When food intake ceases, a noteworthy transformation commences within the body. Rather than depleting energy or entering a state of starvation, as many assume, the body alters its energy sources. This change forms the basis of innate fat expenditure. Throughout periods of fasting, when several hours pass without consuming food, insulin concentrations start to decline.
As insulin decreases, the body releases reserved fat, permitting it to be expended for fuel. This mechanism is neither drastic nor artificial. It reflects the design of human physiology for enduring times when food was not always accessible. Our predecessors did not have access to snacks every few hours. Their bodies instinctively alternated between accumulating and expending energy based on the duration between meals. This alternation is what current dietary practices have interrupted, causing persistent fat that resists removal regardless of exercise volume or calorie reduction. When insulin stays low for an extended duration, another vital hormone named glucagon elevates. Glucagon performs the reverse function of insulin. It instructs the body to liberate reserved energy. The liver starts transforming fat into ketones, an effective and potent fuel for the brain and the rest of the body. This marks the stage where genuine fat expenditure takes place. Rather than depending on glucose obtained from food, the body commences expending internal fat. The more regularly this alternation is permitted, the greater the efficiency of metabolism in utilizing reserved energy. The advantage of fasting lies in its non-coercive nature toward the body. It merely eliminates the ongoing instruction to accumulate fat. Contemporary eating plans loaded with processed carbohydrates and regular consumption hinder this innate fat-burning alternation from activating. Every snack or sweetened beverage elevates insulin and stops the breakdown of fat. Even minor calorie amounts from ongoing grazing can disrupt the fasting condition. This is why reducing the duration of eating periods or creating extended intervals between meals can yield observable outcomes in decreasing abdominal fat. It does not concern overall reduction in consumption, but rather providing the body with the necessary duration and hormonal conditions to perform its intended function. As fasting proceeds, the body gains greater metabolic adaptability, signifying it can seamlessly shift between expending sugar and fat. Individuals frequently report enhanced mental sharpness, consistent energy, and diminished hunger after their bodies adjust to this updated cycle. This occurs because energy is no longer dependent on ongoing food consumption. Instead, the body draws from the extensive reserves of fat already present, delivering a reliable flow of fuel without the fluctuations associated with highs and lows from sugar. For numerous people, this alteration represents the pivotal moment in their wellness path when they cease feeling dominated by food and begin allowing their physiology to operate in their favor. The mechanism extends beyond mere fat reduction. Periods of fasting activate autophagy, a process of cellular purification where aged and impaired cells are dismantled and reused. This supports the body in self-repair at the cellular level, enhancing energy generation, decreasing inflammation, and improving hormonal performance. Reduced insulin concentrations also correspond to reduced chronic inflammation, which is strongly associated with abdominal fat accumulation and metabolic disorders. As inflammation diminishes, the body gains efficiency in releasing reserved fat and preserving appropriate sensitivity to insulin. The widespread misunderstanding that fasting decelerates metabolism constitutes one of the primary deterrents keeping individuals from attempting it. In actuality, brief fasting elevates metabolism via heightened secretion of norepinephrine, a hormone that promotes fat breakdown. Research indicates that intermittent fasting maintains muscle tissue more effectively than conventional calorie limitation because it stimulates growth hormone release, which safeguards lean tissue and favors fat usage. Rather than degrading the body, fasting fortifies it. When performed appropriately, it educates metabolism to become more robust and effective. The critical aspect during fasting is not deprivation, but rather establishing a cycle. It concerns identifying a routine that permits insulin to decrease sufficiently for the body to enter fat-burning mode. Whether that involves omitting breakfast, implementing an intermittent fasting plan such as 16/8, or merely ceasing consumption late at night, the objective is to establish regular intervals where the body is unrestricted to expend fat rather than accumulate it. Fasting is not a form of penalty. It is renewal, a method to revert to the innate metabolic patterns that contemporary living has disturbed. Once this cycle is re-established, the body starts to transform internally and externally, not due to compulsion, but because it ultimately possesses the liberty to fulfill its designed purpose. One of the greatest hindrances to eliminating abdominal fat is the contemporary practice of ongoing snacking and ingesting processed carbohydrates. These items maintain the body in an unending condition of fat accumulation. Each instance of eating causes insulin to increase to assist the body in handling the arriving energy. But when consuming processed carbohydrates, white bread, pastries, cereals, sweetened beverages, and packaged snacks, insulin rises even more sharply and remains high for greater durations. With time, this ongoing activation stops insulin concentrations from decreasing, securing fat reserves, and rendering it almost impossible for the body to transition into fat-burning mode. The greater the frequency of consuming these items, the more the metabolism grows reliant on glucose for fuel and the less able it becomes to expend reserved fat. Most individuals remain unaware of the frequency with which they elevate their insulin concentrations daily. A breakfast consisting of toast or cereal, a mid-morning coffee with sugar, a sandwich for lunch, a snack in the afternoon, dinner with bread or rice, and something sweet afterward, it all accumulates. The body receives no respite. In this perpetual nourished state, hormones for burning fat such as glucagon and growth hormone stay inhibited. The body becomes proficient at accumulating fat and ineffective at liberating it. This explains why abdominal fat often builds up even among those who consider their diet healthy yet continue depending on regular meals and processed carbohydrates. It is not due to insufficient effort, it is a hormonal snare. Processed carbohydrates not only cause sharp insulin rises but also generate fluctuations in blood sugar with peaks and drops. Following a meal heavy in carbohydrates, blood sugar increases quickly, providing a brief surge of energy. Insulin rapidly responds to lower that sugar, frequently overshooting and resulting in fatigue, irritability, and desires for additional carbohydrates. This is the pattern that causes individuals to consume food every few hours, convinced they require energy or nourishment when actually their bodies are reacting to hormonal irregularity. With time, this routine leads to resistance to insulin, where cells cease responding appropriately to insulin, compelling the pancreas to generate even greater amounts. The outcome is a body trapped in fat accumulation mode and progressively resistant to expending its own energy reserves.
Disrupting this pattern begins with eliminating the ongoing supply of processed items and substituting them with complete, nutrient-rich alternatives. When consuming authentic food, protein, fiber, and natural fats, the response from insulin is milder and more equilibrated. The body experiences satisfaction for extended periods, and desires start to diminish. By extending intervals between meals and eliminating ongoing snacking, Insulin concentrations gain time to decrease between consumption, providing the body the opportunity to utilize reserved fat for fuel. It does not involve reducing calories to extreme deprivation. It concerns removing the items and routines that confine metabolism in a state of fat accumulation. The issue with processed carbohydrates extends past merely the insulin rises. They lack fiber and essential nutrients, providing the body with rapid energy but without enduring satisfaction. Fiber obtained from complete foods such as vegetables, legumes, and seeds decelerates digestion and assists in maintaining steady blood sugar, avoiding those abrupt drops that provoke hunger. Beneficial fats like olive oil, avocados, and nuts supply a consistent energy source without causing significant insulin responses. When these items form the basis of the diet, ongoing hunger and desires vanish naturally because energy remains steady all day. The routine of snacking presents another significant problem. Numerous individuals have learned that consuming small regular meals maintains elevated metabolism. Yet the reverse holds true. Every eating occasion elevates insulin even if the snack is minor. This ensures the body never obtains the prolonged interval required to enter fat-burning mode. By decreasing eating frequency, 3 equilibrated meals daily or even 2 for certain individuals, insulin is allowed to decrease for multiple hours, granting the body authorization to expend fat for fuel. Once metabolism adjusts to this cycle, individuals discover they no longer require constant consumption, and abdominal fat starts to reduce without drastic diets or intense exercise. The answer is remarkably straightforward. Cease supplying the body every few hours with processed items that elevate insulin. Provide it time to utilize the energy already reserved. Once refined carbohydrates are substituted with authentic complete foods and unnecessary snacking is reduced, hormones start to return to normal. Hunger becomes steady and burning fat turns into a natural, uncomplicated process. Metabolism ceases relying on ongoing external fuel, instead learning to depend on the most plentiful energy source already available, the body's own fat. The category of food consumed exerts a strong effect on hormones, metabolism, and capacity to expend fat. Although most dietary approaches emphasize calories, the true key resides in the excellence of the foods and their impact on insulin along with other metabolic hormones. When consuming superior quality fats and complete unprocessed items, the body commences resetting its inner equilibrium. These items do not provoke substantial insulin rises, permitting the body to maintain a fat-burning condition for greater durations. Conversely, processed carbohydrates and refined oils disturb this equilibrium, causing increased fat accumulation and hormonal irregularity. The aim is not to consume less, it is to consume more wisely, selecting items that inherently maintain low insulin and steady metabolism. Beneficial fats fulfill an essential function in this mechanism. For years, fat was incorrectly accused of causing increases in weight. But currently, knowledge shows that natural fats are vital for producing hormones, providing energy, and creating satisfaction. When consuming good fats such as those present in olive oil, avocados, fatty fish, nuts, and seeds, the body obtains a gradual, reliable fuel source that avoids causing insulin to rise sharply. This maintains steady energy all day, diminishing hunger and desires. Different from carbohydrates, fats do not significantly activate insulin, permitting the body to persist in expending reserved fat for fuel even following meals. By incorporating these fats into the diet, metabolism is trained to prefer fat as its primary energy source rather than continually depending on sugar. Complete unprocessed items enhance this impact by supplying the body with necessary nutrients and fiber. Foods in their original form. Vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, legumes, and whole grains offer a harmonious combination of nutrients that aid healthy digestion and steady blood sugar. Fiber specifically decelerates carbohydrate absorption, avoiding abrupt insulin rises and encouraging prolonged satisfaction. When meals abound in fiber and beneficial fats, hunger naturally lessens, simplifying reduction in total food consumption without experiencing deprivation. This explains why those consuming authentic complete foods frequently discover that their appetite self-regulates because the body's hormonal messages, leptin and ghrelin, resume proper operation. Protein additionally fulfills a significant function in sustaining metabolic wellness. Superior quality protein sources like eggs, chicken, fish, and legumes assist in constructing and restoring tissues, but they also heighten satisfaction and lessen desires. When paired with beneficial fats, protein aids in maintaining steady blood sugar and avoiding excessive consumption. More crucially, Protein preserves lean muscle tissue, which elevates resting metabolism. The greater the muscle maintained, the more effectively the body expends fat even when inactive. It does not concern consuming excessive protein, but guaranteeing each meal includes sufficient to meet the body's restoration and energy requirements. One of the most common errors individuals commit when attempting to eliminate abdominal fat is adhering to restrictive low-fat plans or depending on packaged diet products. These items frequently contain sugars, refined grains, and artificial components that elevate insulin and cause greater fat gain. The lack of authentic fats in these items causes individuals to experience hunger shortly after consuming, resulting in more regular snacking and excessive eating. Rather than evading fat, emphasis should be placed on evading artificial foods. Anything extensively processed, fried in seed oils, or containing added sugars. Authentic food provides nourishment, stability, and hormonal equilibrium. Artificial food disturbs, inflames, and accumulates fat. Another advantage of complete foods and beneficial fats is their effect against inflammation. Persistent inflammation represents one of the hidden causes of weight increase and metabolic issues. Processed items, sugar, and refined oils heighten bodily inflammation, complicating fat reduction and worsening resistance to insulin. In opposition, natural fats such as extra virgin olive oil, omega-3 fatty acids from fish, and antioxidants from vibrant vegetables assist in reducing inflammation, enhancing sensitivity to insulin, and renewing metabolic wellness. When inflammation reduces, the body responds more effectively to its hormonal messages, simplifying natural fat expenditure. The renewal from consuming complete foods and beneficial fats is not solely physical, it is hormonal. When the body is properly nourished, insulin becomes steady, cortisol diminishes, leptin resumes correct function, and innate hunger signals return to equilibrium. The change does not occur immediately, but through persistence, the body slowly learns to function in fat-burning mode instead of fat-accumulating mode. Individuals cease feeling dominated by hunger or sugar desires because energy originates internally, supported by items that aid metabolism rather than undermine it. Abdominal fat is not limited to food and hormones. It is also profoundly affected by lifestyle elements such as sleep, stress, and hydration. These aspects are frequently ignored, yet they directly influence how the body handles energy and accumulates fat. When sleep quality is inadequate or stress is elevated, hormonal equilibrium in the body alters significantly, causing greater resistance to insulin, desires, and fat buildup, especially in the midsection. Even with a pure diet and exercise regimen, disregarding these vital elements can halt fat reduction because the body views stress as an instruction to retain energy reserves. The link between sleep, stress, and fat reduction is biological, governed by how the body manages hormones like cortisol, ghrelin, leptin, and insulin. Sleep forms the base of hormonal restoration. Throughout deep sleep, the body restores tissues, equilibrates blood sugar, and recalibrates hormones controlling appetite. When sufficient sleep is lacking, generally fewer than 7 hours nightly, cortisol concentrations increase and sensitivity to insulin decreases. This renders the body less capable of managing glucose and causes more of it to be accumulated as fat. Simultaneously, hormones regulating hunger become disturbed. Ghrelin, which activates appetite, rises while leptin, which indicates satisfaction, falls. Consequently, greater hunger is felt, high-calorie items are desired, and ceasing consumption becomes difficult even after sufficiency. This explains why sleep-deprived individuals frequently seek sweetened snacks or processed comfort items. They are not merely fatigued, their hormones actively drive them toward rapid energy sources. Ongoing stress exerts a comparable effect on abdominal fat. When the body experiences persistent stress, it generates elevated cortisol, the main stress hormone. Cortisol's role is to guarantee sufficient energy for handling dangers, which was advantageous for survival in past eras. But in contemporary existence, where stress frequently arises from mental or emotional sources instead of physical threats, this ongoing cortisol secretion becomes damaging. Raised cortisol heightens appetite and promotes fat accumulation, especially in the abdominal zone where fat cells possess more cortisol receptors. This accounts for why even well-eating and exercising individuals can face persistent abdominal fat if stress remains high. The body regards stress as an indication of instability and readies itself by retaining energy as fat. Controlling stress does not require complete removal, but instead instructing the body to react differently. Techniques like deep breathing, meditation, time in nature, and preserving social ties all assist in lowering cortisol and re-equilibrating hormones. Even consistent physical movement, when moderate, aids in reducing stress by boosting endorphin secretion and improving sensitivity to insulin. Nevertheless, excessive or intense exercise under ongoing stress can produce the reverse effect, additionally raising cortisol. The essential factor is equilibrium, merging activity with sufficient rest and restoration, so the body maintains a fat-burning condition rather than stress response mode. Hydration represents another frequently undervalued element in fat metabolism. Water fulfills a vital function in every metabolic activity, including fat breakdown and transport. When dehydration occurs, metabolism decelerates and the body faces difficulty in effectively transforming fat into usable fuel. Dehydration additionally elevates cortisol concentrations, which further promotes fat accumulation. Moreover, thirst is frequently confused with hunger, causing unnecessary consumption when the body merely requires fluids. Consuming sufficient water daily assists in regulating appetite, supporting digestion, and maintaining steady energy. Incorporating a small amount of natural salt or electrolytes into water can also aid balance, particularly during fasting or exercise when minerals are depleted. Superior sleep, stress management, and adequate hydration collaborate to establish the inner conditions the body requires for efficient fat expenditure. When sleep is regular, cortisol stays equilibrated and sensitivity to insulin enhances. When stress is controlled, appetite and desires become steadier. When hydration is sufficient, metabolism operates smoothly and fat is released more readily for fuel. These lifestyle elements strengthen the hormonal messages that encourage fat reduction and stop the body from returning to accumulation mode. The fact is, chronic stress, inadequate sleep, or dehydration cannot be overcome through diet or exercise alone because these elements directly affect the identical hormones governing fat accumulation. Once recovery, relaxation, and hydration begin to receive priority, metabolism starts to cooperate with efforts, and abdominal fat reduces naturally as hormones regain equilibrium. Genuine fat reduction is not concerning temporary solutions or drastic diets. It concerns establishing concordance between dietary routines and the body's innate biological cycle. The human body is constructed to function on alternations of consumption and fasting, movement, and repose. When these cycles become unbalanced, metabolism decelerates, hormones become disturbed, and fat starts to build up, especially around the abdomen. The contemporary way of living involving ongoing consumption, inconsistent sleep, and elevated stress has derailed this innate timing. To dissolve abdominal fat and renew metabolic wellness, it is crucial to realign with the body's inner clock, the circadian rhythm that directs digestion, hormone secretion, and energy utilization all day. The body is not constructed to process food continuously. Sensitivity to insulin adheres to an innate cycle. It is greater in the morning and lesser at night. This signifies the body manages food, especially carbohydrates, more capably earlier in the day. When individuals consume late at night, insulin stays raised longer, stopping fat expenditure during sleep and encouraging fat accumulation instead. Coordinating meals with daylight periods permits insulin concentrations to decrease overnight, activating the liberation of reserved fat for fuel. Consuming within a regular window, like an 8-hour or 10-hour span, assists in synchronizing metabolism with the body's innate hormonal cycles, simplifying and sustaining fat reduction. This idea of time-limited consumption is effective because it replicates human evolution. Across thousands of years, food was not accessible around the clock. Individuals consumed when possible, frequently during daylight, and fasted instinctively through the night. This cycle permitted the body to alternate efficiently between accumulating and expending energy. In opposition, current practices, late snacking, immediate breakfast upon awakening, and numerous small meals, maintain insulin raised from morning to bedtime. This extended consumption window provides the body no chance to expend reserved fat. By reducing the consumption duration and lengthening the fasting phase, daily alternations of fat expenditure are created that occur instinctively without requiring severe calorie limitation. When dietary routines coordinate with biological cycle, other hormones also start to equilibrate. Growth hormone, which supports fat expenditure and muscle restoration, reaches peak during deep sleep, but solely if insulin concentrations are low. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, operates oppositely to insulin. Consuming too near bedtime disrupts both sleep quality and fat metabolism. Cortisol, the awakening hormone, assists in releasing energy in the morning. But ongoing late-night consumption confuses this cycle, causing lethargic mornings and evening desires. Renewing these innate hormonal cycles requires no complex timetables. It simply involves consuming during daylight, fasting overnight, and permitting the body to rest as intended. Another advantage of coordinating dietary routines with the body's cycle is enhanced digestion and steady energy. When meals are regular and appropriately spaced, the digestive system gains time to fully process food before the subsequent meal commences. This enhances nutrient uptake, lessens bloating, and maintains steady blood sugar. When digestion functions effectively, inflammation reduces, and the gut microbiome flourishes. Both are essential for decreasing abdominal fat. A well-functioning gut interacts efficiently with metabolic and hormonal systems, encouraging improved sensitivity to insulin and appetite management. Regularity is the concealed key to all effective fat reduction. The body prospers on foreseeable cycles. When consumption occurs at approximately identical times daily, sleep follows consistent schedules, and regular fasting intervals are provided, metabolism adjusts. Hormones such as insulin, cortisol, and leptin start to adhere to foreseeable patterns, simplifying fat expenditure and energy maintenance. Randomly omitting meals or continually altering consumption windows disrupts these hormonal messages and complicates achieving enduring outcomes. The body compensates routine with equilibrium, and equilibrium produces sustained fat reduction. Existing in coordination with innate cycle also enhances mental and emotional health. When consumption and sleep align with the body's inner clock, energy becomes steady, mood enhances, and desires lessen. Individuals cease feeling as though battling their own body because they are ultimately cooperating with it. Fat reduction becomes uncomplicated when the body is freed from metabolic strain. It is not concerning compelling outcomes, but permitting them through renewing the body's inherent timing systems. When meals, sleep, and fasting operate in concordance, fat expenditure ceases being difficult. It becomes the body's standard condition, the manner it was always intended to operate.